like we're in over our heads again. We know this is what we're meant to do. So we wake up, put our feet on the floor, go and conquer the day like a warrior, like warriors. Cause that's what a tribe does. We got your back so you can relax and focus on all the important stuff, like getting your business done. This is our tribe. We look out for each other. That's right, that's right. This is our tribe. We help each other grow in business and life. That's right, that's right. No need to panic anymore. We got lots of support and an army of warriors by our side. We fight the good fight when we unite. We fight the good fight when we unite. Cause that's what a tribe does. We got your back so you can relax and focus on all the important stuff, like getting your business done. This is our tribe. We look out for each other. That's right, that's right. This is our tribe. We help each other grow in business.
Right, welcome one and all, YouTube, Facebook. Hello again, it's us, the Coffee Shop Conversation Show, and we are here once again to bring entrepreneurs from around the world together so that we can talk about topics and things that we need to discuss, problems that we have in the background, things that we can open up a can of worms, and if you've got the right people in the right space, you can solve that can of worms. So, and I think today's topic is quite appropriate, and thanks to Mr. Levy for pointing it out. Tomorrow is International Mandela's Day, so, and the topic being diversity and inclusion for entrepreneurs. And I think this is quite a diverse topic, because we can look at it from culture, we can also look at it from character. So there's a lot of ways to look at diversity and inclusion. I think for me, just to get the conversation started so that everybody's got something to join into, for me, I think that if you are an entrepreneur and you're running a space where you have a team or you have a crowd of people that you're looking after, if you only have one type of person in your space, you're going to get one type of result. So for me, and you can think about that culturally, you can think about that character-wise. I know that for me to have a balanced team, I need the people that are out there and loud and opening up their voices and shouting to the masses. And then I need the people that are quiet and reserved and don't necessarily like to be on camera and like to get things done in the background. Creating a space of balance in a team is very important. And then if you look at things culturally, you can think of it much the same. Different cultures, different strengths, different weaknesses. If you can put the right team together or create the right crowd with a balance of people, you can create something extremely powerful. So I'd love to open up the floor with the topic being diversity and inclusion, and I would love to hear what you guys think about the topic of diversity and inclusion. I know that for me, it's something that's very close to my heart. If it's not serving everyone, throw it out. That is my thought on inclusion. I don't want to create a bless me club where all the people that think the same get together and pat each other on the backs. That's not what we're creating, especially in our environment. We happen to be in South Africa, though our audience happens to be all over the world. So I prefer to look at this as a global diversity and inclusion. And we have met some of the most incredibly diverse, talented incredible people from all over the world, and it's been it's been a it's been a fun ride. Nikki, you want to jump into the conversation?
Hi. Yes, I do. I thought I may as well go straight in with, because this is a big thing for me. Because growing up in South Africa, coming from the UK when I was a child, just going straight into the apartheid thing, I didn't know about it. And so I used to play in the locations and all that sort of thing, and no one said any different. It was just 82, 83, 84, moved to Cape Town, and we saw it for the first time. And I was horrified. So, yeah, I look at character. I don't. Yeah, I'm pretty African on the inside as well, so that's really cool. For me, it is anyway. Sorry for African people, because I kind of tangle everything. But the main thing is that I was marginalized for most of my life for various reasons. You know, the undiagnosed ADHD, so I was a weird person. I came from England into an Afrikaans town in the Northwest Brits, and, you know, I was marginalized for that because, and then going to Cape Town because, you know, I didn't fit in. And so I hate people. I hate people not accepting. And what I've come to realize over the vast course of my years on this earth is that it mainly comes from fear of the unknown and fear of not understanding. And people tend to reject what they don't understand, and they don't want to take the time. And it's usually a mass kind of thinking, or you know, that they don't want to take the time to understand because it might be something that might challenge their thinking of the way they've been brought up, or just that sort of thing. So in conclusion to my short speech, are you impressed? I honestly, yeah, I go on character, and I've seen character homeless because I was homeless for a while, and I've seen character in a mansion, and I've seen no character in a mansion, and I've seen no character homeless. So it makes no difference. It's what's inside. It's not your circumstance, not your color. And just also wanted to say that I have created my own race now, because I'm actually not white. I'm a pale blue color. So my new race is defrosted chicken leg. You know, when you pull it out of the fridge and it's kind of blue and veiny, that is my race. And I'm in the minority, but I don't care. So yeah, it's just, you know, if you don't like it, be quiet. That's it. Oh, I'm Nikki.
Awesome.
I talk a lot and I live in Dubai. There you go. Sweet.
Awesome. Nikki, thank you so much. I think that was a really good way to start this conversation, because you've got hands are going up in response to it already, which I think is brilliant. You know, I think growing up in this country, and I don't want to make it about South Africa, but it's a really good example. You always get the powers that be that seem to struggle. You know, whether it be political, whether it be this party, that party, politics, nonsense, blah, blah, blah. But if you take a step back and you look at the people, like the real people, the people that get things done, the people in the background, the businessman, the businesswoman, the banker, the person that sweeps the streets, you look at everyone, and generally the people don't have the problem. It's not generally the people that have the problem. It's the politics that is the problem. So we stay away from politics. We know it's a problem. It can stay left field. It can go do its own thing. But if you look at the people, and this is what I love about people from around the world, when you go from one country to a next, you get shoved into a culture that is completely different to your own, and you get to learn. And a lot of the power of different cultures is that you can take what you learn from those cultures and you can kind of take it on as your own. You know, oh, I saw this in this culture, and that really works. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. If it works, it works. A lot of the values in this space, and we have a community of members from around the world, a lot of the values in this space come from different cultures. So, and it's created a powerful space full of powerful people. So, Lesetja, we've had an incredible conversation before where I know that it was just yourself, myself, and I think it was Chris, Mr. Colby, and we had a really in-depth conversation that really it becomes enlightening. So I'd love to hear what you have to say.
The topic itself is close to my heart as well. And I mean, I had a coffee with Mr. Levy earlier, and I got to open my heart to him, and I opened it because Mr. Levy is it's open. He's inclusive. He's an awesome human being, and you can just go onto his shoulder and cry, and it'll be fine. So from the kind of person that he is, to Peter, who are always, I can say anything and whichever way I want, but I always find myself at home with the two, let me call them diverse people. Peter has got his own character. Mr. Levy has got his own character, but I find myself at home between the two, let me call them extreme poles. I find myself always included, which for me brings in a lot of comfort in the tribe. The tribe, as you said, Peter, is composed of a lot of different people from all over the world. We looking at South Africa, we treat people differently to probably how Europe treats people, or New Zealand, or whoever. But we are always people. So we are diverse in that way, but always included in whatever we do. So I find that especially in the tribe, and
sorry, Lesetja, you muted yourself by accident.
A lot of people will say, I always talk positive about the tribe because of the love that I've got for the tribe. And it's not always that. It's because of what I get from the tribe, from a whole lot of people in the tribe. I mean, I had a physical meet with Carolyn on Friday it was. We couldn't have enough time to chat. And that is how it is. And I mean, it was the first time that we actually physically met, but it was like we've known each other for 20 years. We couldn't stop talking. And it's because when you open up to a person in the tribe, when you engage with a person in the tribe, you always are included in the tribe. You're always one of the tribe members. You're actually part of the family. So and that's why I appreciate the tribe that much. And coming to Mandela Day, as Mr. Levy has pointed out earlier, that's one man that fought for inclusion of everybody in the politics of the country and probably in the world. And so tomorrow we celebrate his day. I think it's his 10th year that he passed on. I think it's his 10th year. But we'll always celebrate him because of what he fought for every one of us. And honestly, not just for South Africa. Even Nikki, when you were homeless or living in a mansion, he was fighting for your rights, because that is what the world is about. We need to be able to see each other as people and not as individuals, but as a general people. Thank you. This is Lesetja, your business development specialist.
Lesetja, very powerful, very powerful. And I know that in every country, there's going to be different cultures and people grow up in different ways. And from being a child and growing up in a different way, and as you get to mix with people that grew up differently to yourself, if you have that fear of the unknown, you're going to try and stay in your lane. You're going to try and stay in that space of, okay, well, this is what I know is safe, and that to me is not safe, but you're missing out. you're missing out on people and characters and life experiences and a lot of the things that you get when you travel. When you travel abroad, you get those experiences, but what we need to understand is that whatever country we're in, we can have those experiences right where we are. You don't have to travel to experience that. In South Africa, we've got multiple cultures, and all over the world, there are multiple cultures. Find one, immerse yourself in it, learn. It becomes extremely powerful. Mr. Levy, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, phew, so much said already, just by two people. Three, sorry, Pete, three people. And there's something you said that was very important, because I think diversity, we tend to forget that even in, Lesetja mentioned the word family in the tribe, but even in our own immediate families, we have diversity. We all have a uniqueness about us. We tend to forget about that. So what is it that brings us together? And it's do our values align? We create a culture in our immediate family through our values. So, I was brought up within a certain culture aligned to what my parents taught me and the values they taught me. But we still all diverse. We all have something unique to offer the world, as you know, I'm in the firm belief of that. In terms of, and it's the diversity that makes us so innovative, makes us so creative. It adds a spark to the world. And Pete, you said it, can you imagine if everybody was the same? What a boring world it would be. So I think very much for me, it's about us learning in the world today to respect each other in our differences, because we are different. And is to respect that. And
it looks like we are lagging.
It's not for me to exclude somebody. It's how we align in our part ways. But it doesn't give me the right to disrespect them, or them to disrespect me. And I stand very firm on that. And I think we need to make peace with the fact that we are diverse, but we must respect each other in our differences. And it's about belonging. Do I belong? If I'm going to try and fit in, it's going to be a problem. If I try and fit into a community whose values I don't align with, then I'm not really being true to myself, and I'm not being honest with the community itself. Okay, so we also got to learn to say, this is not a space for me. It's like, I've always said this, there are 8 billion people in the world. We don't all get on with each other. But it doesn't mean we have to fight each other. So, yeah, I think that's just really what I always say. And it's like I see it working with businesses. You don't get well-rounded people, you get well-rounded teams. When you're able to bring all that uniqueness together, it's amazing what can happen. But again, when they're all aligned to the same values. And yeah, that's it. I think inclusion creates a lot of ownership, and it's going to be driven by those that are out there. And I think it's going to be driven by entrepreneurship. That's the world's going to be driven by entrepreneurs. It already is being. So yeah, that's Stephen from Dare to Be, Coaching and Beyond, and working with leaders globally.
Wow. Yeah, I love this topic, because there's so much created around just this one topic. If I look at some of the, even just some of the things I'm watching on YouTube, people's travels, different countries, their experiences, and they're living great lives. They're getting to experience cultures all over the world and having a lot of fun. I know that Full Circle Phenomenal is currently, I think they've reached Namibia. The last time we were here, they were in Cape Town. People that are just making a difference in the world. Carolyn, you're one of them. And not to worry, Nikki, I will come back to you. But Carolyn, you're on a mission. You're on a huge mission. I think just give us your thoughts on the topic, which is diversity and inclusion. But then maybe just let us know a little bit about where you're going and what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. My thoughts on this are a few. So I've lived in a lot of different countries and interacted with a lot of different cultures. And what I think some of the things I've learned are that, yes, we are all different, but it's like a small layer at the top, like it's like the top of the iceberg where we are different, and everything underneath, we're actually the same because we're all human, and we all enjoy a hug, and we all have fears, and we all have hopes and dreams, and we all want our kids to do well in the world. And, and there's like, we all have that shared humanity. We might have different ideas about what success means, or we might have different ideas about what's right or what's wrong, that there is that small layer of difference, and that's fine. And it's important to express our uniqueness and our individuality. And it's also important to, to really understand that beneath that, we have so much in common. We have much more in common than what separates us. And I think also what I've learned is that it's really important to disagree and respect. So just because I disagree with someone doesn't mean I have to disrespect a person. No, I can disagree and respect a person and be like, okay, we have different opinions on this, but I see that you have a good point. You're making a good point. And if I see things from your perspective, I see how you get there, but I still don't share your opinion. I don't have to share it in order to respect you. And really consider other perspectives, because it's so valuable, like we are forced more and more by the algorithms and everything. We are more and more forced into echo chambers where all we hear is opinions that we already agree with. And it's robbing us. It's really robbing us of so much, value in our lives, so much potential for growth and for understanding and for developing different ideas. Innovation doesn't happen in echo chambers. You have to have like ideas from outside, completely foreign to you, like perspectives that you would have never considered, because that's how innovation happens, because you're bringing these things together and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I've never thought of that. But if I think of that and then I think of this, then together, I can create something really new and different. So those are like my thoughts from traveling. And on my little project that you were alluding to, my project is to ride across Africa on a motorbike. I'm going to be going from Cape Town all the way to Alexandria in Egypt, and stopping in with 8 social impact initiatives that are led by women along the way to make a documentary film series about that is called Women Who Impact. Because I think there is like a great potential for businesses and social impact initiatives to really learn from each other. Because all the things that social impact initiatives are great at are usually the things that businesses struggle with, and vice versa. So if we bring the two together, there can be like great progress happening on both sides.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, which kind of brings me to a certain point. I mean, we can all talk about diversity and inclusion, but what is our role? What role do we play in? We may have certain thoughts about it, we may have certain standards or points of view, but what part do we actually play in creating a society that is diverse and all-inclusive? And I think a lot of spaces talk about it. Let's talk about it. It's the same as networking spaces go, yes, we're a networking space. But what is networking? It's about relationships. You can talk about networking and you can create spaces where people can get together, but if there's no relationships, then it's not really networking, is it? So it's almost like we're talking about it, but we're not really doing it. And so what role do we play? Do we just talk about being inclusive? Do we just talk about diversity? Or do we actually practice it and make it part of the values of our space, make it part of how we do business, make it part of how we see things? Because I think that's the only time we're really going to make a difference. If we're part of the solution, let's not talk about the solution, let's be part of it. And that's why I love, Karen, that's why I love your journey. It's you going, I am going to be a part of this. And that to me speaks volumes. I love that. Nikki, I know you've been trying to keep quiet and you've been so well behaved there, sitting in the upper left-hand corner, but it's time to unmute and just let it out.
I don't want to disappoint you, but I'm actually feeling very focused today. Not. So we're taking it into the networking space. Okay, so moving away from cultures and, on the face of it kind of stuff, going into the networking space. So I've been in Dubai now for almost 10 months. And people think, they have this impression, even Janine sort of said a couple of days ago that she's surprised. She thought I'd traveled all over the place. I've been in 4 countries in my life, 4, which is England, where I was born, and it's a, lovely place, not. And South Africa, where I grew up, which is an amazing place, true. Dubai, which is amazing, true. And Georgia, which I was there for a week, which was lovely. And, oh yeah, cool. He distracted me, someone put in a message on the screen. Anyway, going back to the networking, putting it into a business perspective. So I network professionally, worldwide, globally, mostly on Zoom, because I actually prefer being on my own. And what you were saying just now, Pete, about not having relationships, and I just had a thought and I actually wrote it down, actually. So when you're in a networking situation and regular ones, like, I don't think this counts really, because you guys, and I've started saying to a lot of people, you must come check it out, because they really do walk their talk. But when you're in a networking situation, networking Zooms and speed Zooms and whatever, if you're not building those relationships, it is actually networking. Okay, it's not fun. A lot of people don't enjoy it. And when you're building those relationships, and I'm going to be really cheesy here, it's more like net worthing, because they say your network is your net worth, but in another way, it's actually, you're building worth, you're building like worthwhile friends, you're building worthwhile relationships. And so that'll make a thing. I love networking. I love networthing. I love family and what I call family is friends and family is my family. And when people really do, they ask me, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, well, actually, I make friends every day all around the world. And sometimes those friends want to talk to other friends. If I didn't do that, I don't think I'd be useless at what I do. So, but I've met so many different people from so many walks of life, and it's, especially here in Dubai, because it's very international, extremely international. And Janine and I both, we don't gravitate towards the South Africans. We just do our own thing. They're finding us, funnily enough. But we've got like Indian friends, Pakistani friends, and Emirati nationals, Arab friends, British friends, and it makes no difference because we all want the same thing. And I'm not going to hang out with someone I don't like, get on with. Even in a professional capacity, I'm not made that way. So it is about exactly what Carolyn said. I don't agree with what you say, but I love you anyway. So I'm going to hang out with you. I'm going to do business with you because I trust you, because your values are there, even though your opinion might not be the right way. And that's not going by ethics and things like that. The ethics are always aligned, but you can still have ethical, authentic people who differ opinion to you. That's okay, because I'm not so arrogant, believe me, to think I know everything and I'm right about everything, because I'm usually not. So it's kind of a good exercise in, acceptance. So yeah, it's basically the whole thing. I mean, I've realized that the politicians, what you said earlier and what I said earlier, they actually do muck it up for everyone. Just got to say, sorry, politicians, but you need to go home and stay there. So and it's everywhere. I mean, everywhere, bar none. It really is. So yeah, just, you know, shut up. If you don't have anything else to say, be quiet and move on. But you've got to love the person. I mean, so what? They're different to you. They say something you don't agree with. That's okay. Agree to disagree. Anyway, that's my spiel.
Awesome. Nikki, I think that you have found your groove. Because I remember we had conversations a while ago where you were like, I'm thinking of doing this or I'm thinking of doing that. And I think you found your groove. I think the space that you're in and doing what you're doing is exactly what you're meant to be doing. It shows in the way that you speak. Love it. Absolutely love it. Carolyn, I see you want to jump back into the conversation.
Yeah, it just reminded me of one little thing I wanted to share, that I used to run a women's empowerment initiative in Qatar, and you know, you always, like in Dubai, you have like 30, 40 different nationalities wherever you know, in every space that you go into, and it's beautiful and it gives you opportunities. But what used to happen when we used to run these conferences, and I would come in on the first day, and you would have like all the blonde girls over there, all the abayas over here, all the Asian girls over there, you know, and they would naturally just segregate, you know, without even thinking about it. And so the first thing I would do was get up on stage and say, we have a rule here, like no more than 2 blonde heads or 2 abayas at any table. So all get up and mix. And the feedback that we got the most was, we didn't realize that they were so much like us. And the we and the they was completely interchangeable between all of them, you know, but that was like the feedback we got all the time. We didn't realize that they were so much like us. And you just need to bring people together and make them talk about things that are meaningful to them. Like we would put them around round tables, 8 or 10 people, and then make them talk about their fears or their dreams or their vision for their business. And that made them realize that, you know, we're not so different. We're all actually the same. And as soon as you have that realization, then you can't be bigoted against anyone anymore. You can't like exclude them from your conversations anymore, you know? That brings like a natural inclusiveness, I think.
100%. Definitely 100%. Even if we look at diversity and inclusion and we measure to productivity, because I know a lot of spaces will measure, they're looking at the business, and culture kind of gets pushed away. And inclusive is more about, can you fit into this mold of how much productivity you can generate? Can you fit into this space? And I think larger spaces need to just stop for a second and take a deep breath and go, how can we actually utilize diversity and inclusion to improve our productivity? Because you can. And this is something that Stephen Levy will know all too much about, but it seems to be ignored. And I actually found that when we founded this Explore Protect space, it didn't start as a paid platform. It didn't start as a networking group. It started as myself and Nestine going, we want to create this kind of space, and we were attracting certain people to that space, and it started as a group of friends, really. And we literally got together. They watched us fumble how we were trying to do what we were trying to do, and a lot of the people that we brought into the space became part of the solution as to what we built. And it naturally became inclusive. And I think the reason this space is so powerful is because it's inclusive and because it's so diverse. And not only diverse in culture, but diverse in character, diverse in culture, diverse in skill sets. There are people in this space that It doesn't matter what I'd like to achieve. There is always someone that knows a certain part of that journey that I can go to and go, oh my goodness me, how do I do this? Don't worry, I got your back because you do it like this. And if we didn't have such a diverse space in skills and culture and character, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to step into spaces so powerfully, and not powerfully because I step in powerfully because as a diverse group, we can step in extremely powerfully. It's something. It's a thing of beauty, and I think it needs to be watered and fed, and it needs to grow, which is going to be great, because the more diverse we become, the more numbers we gather, the more like-minded people we have, the more powerful we become. So I'm loving this space. Lesetja, I see your hand is up.
Yes. The one thing that and if I'm preaching it, so be it, is you cannot mention the terms we are inclusive and we are a diverse organization or networking group, and we practice inclusivity when you're actually not practicing it. It's got to be seen to be happening. I mean, even if I bring in the biblical perspective here, being a Christian is not about going to church, praying, and donating to the orphans and all that. It's how people look at you. When they look at you and engage with you, do they feel the warmth that you bring to them? And that is practicing what you are saying. And I think I also love the 702 motto when they say you walk the talk. Walk or do what you say you are doing. You are a group, you are a diverse group, you like to include a lot of people, but practice that. Don't just say it and not practice it, because then you are deceiving yourself and other people, which will be a shame. And look at our politicians. They always go out and say, we are going to do this for you, do that for you, and do this for you. But at the end of the day, it's all about money going into their pockets. Are they practicing what they are saying? Do we trust them because of that? So it's do as you say. And even I think I've heard someone saying, kids learn from what you do and not what you say. You cannot tell your child don't smoke when you're smoking, because you just challenge them to go smoking. But if they see you not smoking, if they see you, and Mr. Levy will know this very well, if they see you hugging your wife, then love grows with them. But if you say you must love your wife and they see you shouting at her, it doesn't match. So we need to be practicing what we are saying and not just saying it for the sake of trying to build a community. Thanks, Peter.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm sure my ex-wife would agree with you, 100%. I'm kidding. The point of creating a space where you actually do what you say, I think we need to look at it even more differently. We need to do it first so that people see we're doing before we even say that that's what we do. People should just look at the space and go, oh my goodness me. That's what I love about the space. This is how I fit. But when you get a space that stands up and goes, we're this and we're this and we're this, but they're not doing it at all, or they're doing a very watered down version of it, then it just becomes a space that you step in and then get your feet a little wet, and then you're like, oh, no, not for me. I'm just going to go do my own thing, or I'm going to keep trying to find the space that I fit. And one of the things that I've been really wanting to drive home is that people need to arrive in this space as who they are. Yes, it's a networking space, but I don't want people to arrive, dressing the part of the successful entrepreneur when they might not be, or dressing the part or speaking the part of the most, awesome. You've got to follow this person because they are the most elite in the. No. Arrive as who you are, and that's why we become powerful, because we accept each other for who we are. That's it. I know that, and this is a question I actually want to ask Mr. Levy, which is a good thing he had his hand up, is diversity and inclusion in the leadership space. I really want to hear your take on this.
Can I give it to you after Sandra's spoken, because she's got her hand up, and just to be mindful of time.
Sure.
That she can let her give us that, and it's an interesting question that I'd like to answer, but to give Sandra her space.
And
well, I suppose it falls in line with being inclusive.
What you were just talking about, showing, doing, speaks so much louder than words. You can say whatever you want to say. And I have a 15-year-old, almost 16-year-old, who it's her first public job. She's always done odd jobs and stuff, but she's in the public now, and she's learning customer service, and she's learning the good, the bad, and the ugly of customer service. And, we talk about your customer service voice and things like that, treat people how you want to be treated. And, but she's 15. So, 3 or 4 hours of being yelled at and things not going well take a toll. And I'm like, you're still a human being. Yes, you want to treat people with respect and stuff. And there are going to be times where you have to stand up for yourself, even though you're a customer service, you're the front of a company. So I think that can also tie into leadership. How are you treating your workers? And that's something that I'm very proud of where she's working, because they do have their backs. Like, they'll come up and management will and be like, it's a water park, so it's very weather permitting, and the weather's not been the greatest and most easiest thing to work with, but it's a water park. And like, it frustrates me when people act like she is in charge of the weather. She's not in charge of the weather. She has nothing to do with that. She has nothing to do with the policies of your ticket and so on and so forth. So I've been really watching what I say and what I role model, because I do want her to, and she's just doing wonderful, but also give her the space to verbalize and decompress when she gets home and say, hey, it was a rough day, Mom, like blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's fine. How did you handle it? She's like, I did this. And I'm like, very proud of her. And making sure, and she's youngest of 5, that when your children are doing well and treating people with respect, that you tell them that, because not all kids are that way. Not adults. I mean, 4 of them are adults now. So, and we've been in some crazy situations, and I've had people tell me, your kids are respectful. Like, they're not crazy, and they just don't act disrespectful. So I think as a parent, coming from that diversity and things, that I can honestly say they were in small country schools, so they didn't have a lot of diversity, but they've now went into the world and they've seen it. And as far as I know, like, it's went well, and that's been modeled at home and in my business too. So, she's around, she still hears what I say and do in the business. So I think as a parent, not only role modeling it, but also telling them a good job for doing it is very important. So, Sandra, you're Get It Done coach.
Oh, epic. I think that just highlights, even outside of entrepreneurship, taking it into the home, and that being part of the solution is, as parents, teaching inclusion and diversity. And you'd be surprised what a huge difference it would make if every parent on the face of the planet would actually take it very seriously as to how they're raising their children, instead of wanting to create molds of themselves and maybe their bitterness from past or from their experiences, and then they tend to mold their children around their bitterness, and then the future looks bitter. Whereas we could put our own rubbish, we could put it aside and play our part with our own children. And I think if it starts at home, when a child then grows up with that way of thinking and a different way of thinking, that they are more grounded and able to stand up for themselves and include others, which creates a whole different environment. So, Sandra, I think that's brilliant. We need to come and visit the water park. Definitely. Mr. Levy, I know that you're a parent as well, so you can jump in here.
Well, it's 100% what Carolyn said. It is parenting and leadership, probably pretty much the same thing. I often say that I think mothers would make great leaders because they're able to do so many things at once, and they're empathetic. They spend a lot of time, in the first few months with a child, and I think empathy is something that's just kind of it's something that they just have in them, and it's something that's important to leadership. And I think I'm not going to go into this now, but I think one must really distinguish between empathy and sympathy. And empathy is really important to leadership. So in answer to your question, Pete, I always say I'm so privileged to work in a space where I get a lot of exposure to leaders, and across different industries and across different countries, and it's wonderful. And I must say the positive thing that I take out of it is that leadership, I think, is starting to see the importance of actually being inclusive, the importance of diversity. They're seeing the importance of speaking to their people instead of speaking to their numbers. And it's really a wonderful thing to see. I think it was accelerated a lot through COVID because they were forced to communicate with their people at home and find out how they are instead of how they're doing with the numbers or if they've met target. So, when you look after your people, you'll look after your business. But having said that, I don't think the leaders are intentionally bad, because I don't think we're not born bad. I don't think people are intentionally bad. A lot of them, and I've seen it because I work with them, is do it unconsciously. It's because of what they were taught in their era, and they were taught, and their parents were taught, and so it goes back. But somewhere along the line, somebody has to challenge it and test those beliefs and say, what worked for us then won't necessarily work for us now. And when that somebody steps out and does that, it's a slow process, but it'll move. And I'm going to come back. Karen spoke, I think, about perspective. It's also to create that safe space that we work in. And I had actually a session with a leader today who couldn't understand why there wasn't this trust and communication that she expected, but she's new in the team. And she's quite an assertive leader, but a very good leader and very empathetic. Okay? And just showed her something from another perspective, something that she knew, but she wasn't seeing. And then they're like, oh, okay. So it wasn't highlighting anything that she didn't know. She just didn't see it. But I have the privilege of sitting on the outside, or the luxury of sitting on the outside and being able to see that and highlighting. And then she went, oh, okay. Now her whole team session next week is going to be different to what she had already, is going from strategic to about the people. And she had it in her. So I don't want to point fingers, because we often do, we say, people leave because of poor leadership. And yes, it's right, but we must understand it's not always intentional. And I think that is the challenge, I think, of coaches. And I know Karen works in that space, would agree. There are a lot of other people here that work in that space. We just got to keep persevering. And maybe not, when we see leaders that aren't behaving the way they should be, is maybe how do you highlight this to them? How do you show them a different way? And I must tell you, most of them will pick it up and take it and carry it through. And that, I think it's awesome. I think we're going through that dip. And when we shift out of that dip, it might be in the next generation, but when we shift out of that dip, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry, Caroline, if you want to jump in there, and then after this, I'll just bring this session to a close and drop some words of wisdom. Become smart.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer to what Stephen just said, because I think the thing is that we ask of the leaders that they see the good in their people, that they look for the good intention, they look for the goodness in them. And I think we need to do the same when we are looking at the leaders. It's like, I always tell people, like, imagine it's someone you really love, like your child or your younger sibling or your cousin or whatever, like if they behave badly, you would never say they're a bad person. You would look at them and say, I wonder what's making them do that. Like, how did they get hurt, or did they get disappointed, or do they feel defensive, or what is it that is making them behave like that? And if we look at it from this perspective, then we can see a completely different side. And I've worked with thousands of people over the 20 plus years that I've been a coach, and I have never met a person where I felt that they were bad or evil. Every person I've ever met and had the privilege to work with, I feel is good. They're good people. They are just going through hard things in their lives, and sometimes not knowing how to be, how to show up in the way that they would like to.
Well, I love that. And I think that's what we're striving for. Create a space